He saved the alien girl from the fire, and the queen declared, "Prepare the wedding." Kale had never imagined that a simple diplomatic mission would throw him into chaos so quickly. He stepped off the shuttle, blinking under the alien sun that painted the floating city in hues of orange and violet. The towers around him glimmered with flowing light, and people with luminescent skin moved gracefully across transparent walkways. Everything seemed alive, vibrating with a rhythm that humans could barely sense. He adjusted the strap of his utility pack and tried to keep his breathing steady. Being a human among these aliens was intimidating. Stories had painted them as majestic, delicate, and far beyond human ability. Kale had always prided himself on human resilience, on adaptability, but now, surrounded by beings who floated instead of walked, who glowed instead of perspired, he felt small. His guide, a tall alien with shifting silver skin named Torin, gestured toward the city center. "Follow me. We will meet the council. The queen wishes to observe human behavior firsthand." "It will be enlightening." Kale nodded, though he didn't fully understand the social subtleties. "Enlightening," he repeated to himself, trying to sound casual. Humans had a way of making even the most impossible circumstances work in their favor. They crossed a wide bridge suspended in the air. The structure was transparent, showing the city far below. Kale gripped the railing, a bead of sweat forming on his forehead, not from fear but from the strange, dizzying sense of weightlessness the city projected. Suddenly, a low rumble shook the bridge, and Kale saw smoke curling from the buildings above. "Fire!" Torin shouted, but in a language Kale could barely comprehend. A bright orange glow spread quickly along the walkways. Panic rippled through the alien crowd, their elegant movements turning chaotic. Kale's eyes scanned the chaos, searching for danger. That's when he saw her. A small figure, no taller than his waist, clung desperately to the edge of a crumbling bridge. Her eyes were wide with terror, her translucent skin glowing faintly in the firelight. Without thinking, Kale sprinted forward. Alien citizens screamed and pushed back, but he shoved his way through. Every second counted. The bridge shook violently. Panels beneath the girl's feet fell away into the fire. Kale didn't hesitate. He launched himself across the widening gap, stretching his hands toward her. She looked at him, fear mingled with hope, and he grabbed her wrist just as the bridge beneath her collapsed completely. He pulled her toward him, landing hard on the remaining bridge. The heat was intense, smoke burning his lungs, but he refused to let go. He crawled to a safer section of the bridge, dragging her with him. Her small hands clung to his arms. She coughed, shaking, but Kale didn't let her rest. They had to move. Flames licked the sides of the structure and debris rained from above. Kale remembered the small collapsible shield in his pack. He set it down, activated it, and it formed a shimmering dome of protection around them. The intense heat was reduced just enough for them to pass through. Below, the crowd of aliens stared in disbelief. Humans were not supposed to act like this. Their species was fragile, their technology limited. Yet here was Kale, charging through fire, defying danger as if instinct alone guided him. Finally, they reached a side exit that led to a safety platform. Kale helped the girl down, setting her gently on the ground. She was trembling but alive. She looked up at him, her glowing eyes wide with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered in the soft, melodic language of her people. Kale patted her shoulder. "It's okay, you're safe now, that's what matters." As he turned to see if there were any others needing help, the fire roared louder. Explosions shook the buildings, sending shards of glass and metal hurtling into the sky. Kale realized the fire was spreading faster than anyone could control. Panic erupted throughout the city. Citizens screamed, floating cars collided, and the glowing bridges twisted dangerously under the heat. Kale's mind raced. Humans had always relied on ingenuity in crises, and he was about to prove why. He activated a small drone from his pack. It hovered above, scanning for the safest paths through the city. The drone's lights traced a route toward the palace, where he assumed the girl's family might be seeking shelter. He looked down at her. "We need to move." "Follow me," she nodded, grabbing his hand, and they sprinted through alleys and narrow walkways, dodging collapsing panels and falling debris. Every step Kale took reminded him of how underestimated humans were. Aliens had the advantage of agility, strength, and advanced technology. Yet, his human resilience and quick thinking allowed him to navigate dangers they struggled to avoid. He ducked under a falling support beam, rolled to avoid molten metal, and led the girl through the chaos with precision that made him proud. Finally, they reached a courtyard where other citizens had gathered. The fire still raged above, but for the moment they were safe. The girl clung to Kale, tears streaming down her face, her fear slowly transforming into awe. You saved me," she said, her voice trembling. "Why, humans are fragile, why risk yourself?" Kale smiled gently. "Because no one deserves to die if I can help it." The crowd of aliens was silent, watching this small human and the glowing girl. Whispers spread through the gathered citizens. Humans were not brave, not strong, not capable of heroics on this scale. And yet here was proof to the contrary. Kale's courage challenged every assumption they had. Above, a royal airship descended. A hush fell over the crowd. Guards in shimmering armor moved to the front, and a voice echoed through the courtyard. "Bring him to us." Kale looked at the girl. She nodded slightly, her hand brushing against his. "Go," she urged. He followed the guards, wondering what awaited him. Inside the palace, the grand hall was larger than anything Kale had ever seen. Towering windows showed the city below, the fire reflecting off every surface. The queen, radiant and imposing, stood at the far end, observing him with piercing eyes. Aliens surrounded her, murmuring among themselves. Humans were not meant to walk here. Their presence was unusual, unnecessary even. Kale bowed instinctively, unsure what protocol required. The queen's gaze softened slightly, then sharpened. She studied him as if weighing every part of his being. His chest tightened. He had faced fires, collapsing bridges, and mortal danger, but this was different. He felt the weight of an entire civilization's judgment pressing on him. "You saved her," the queen said finally. Her voice was melodic, commanding, and carried through the hall. "The child of my house was in mortal danger. You, a human, intervened." "Why?" Kale met her gaze steadily. "Because she was in danger, Your Majesty. No one should die if I can help it." A ripple of surprise passed through the hall. Aliens looked at each other. The queen's expression shifted subtly, almost imperceptibly, but it was clear she was intrigued. Humans were simple, yes, but there was something raw, uncalculated, and powerful in Kale's actions. Unlike the alien elites who relied on rituals, rules, and technology, he acted with instinct, courage, and ingenuity. The girl approached Kale, her small hand brushing his arm. "She speaks highly of you," she said softly, and Kale realized she meant the queen. The realization sent a shiver down his spine. Aliens may be physically superior, but the queen's attention was a dangerous, transformative power. The queen finally stepped forward, her gaze fixed on him. "Humans are fragile," she said, "yet you defy that notion. You are remarkable." Her words were measured, precise, but carried weight. Kale felt both pride and fear. "I only did what I had to," he said simply. "No one deserves to die if I can prevent it." She studied him for a long moment, then spoke to her court. "Prepare him for what comes next." Whispers erupted throughout the hall. Humans were not supposed to play a role in royal matters. And yet here was Kale, standing in the center of their gaze, already part of a story that would be told across generations. Kale didn't fully understand what the queen meant, but he knew one thing: this was only the beginning. He had acted with courage when it mattered most, and the galaxy had noticed. Humanity, long underestimated, was about to have its moment. Outside, the fire still raged, but Kale's thoughts were elsewhere. He looked at the girl, and she looked back at him with trust and something more, an unspoken promise. For the first time, Kale realized that human bravery was not just about survival. It was about the choices one made in impossible situations, the instincts to protect, and the ability to act when others froze. And in that moment, Kale felt something he had never felt before: the undeniable sense that humans, fragile as they seemed, could change the course of entire civilizations. The hall was silent after the queen's words, the weight of her gaze pressing on Kale like nothing he had ever felt before. Every alien in the room watched him with curiosity, awe, and skepticism all at once. He felt small, yet somehow stronger, as if the fire outside had already begun forging him into something the aliens could not ignore. Leora, the girl he had saved, stayed close to him. Her small hand brushed against his arm occasionally, a reminder of the bond formed in the chaos. She whispered almost shyly, "They call you remarkable." Kale smiled faintly, unsure how to respond. Humans were not used to praise in the midst of danger. They acted, they survived, and they moved on. Recognition was rare, but here, it seemed, it carried more weight than he had ever imagined. Torin, his alien guide, stepped forward. His shifting silver skin reflected the glow of the palace lights. "Your courage is unusual," he said carefully. "Humans do not act like this. You surprised us all." Kale nodded. "I only did what I had to. There was no time to think about how unusual it would be." The words were simple, but they carried authority. Aliens respected action, even if it came from a species they underestimated. The Queen's gaze softened slightly as she motioned for Kale to follow her. The hall cleared quickly, and soon they were alone in a private chamber. Leora stayed near the door, her eyes flicking nervously between Kale and the Queen. The Queen sat on a throne that shimmered with floating lights, her hands folded calmly in her lap. "You saved her life," the Queen said, her voice calm but firm. "In our society, such an act creates a bond that is not easily broken. You understand this?" Kale tilted his head. I think I do. Saving someone isn't about rules or bonds. It's about making sure they live. That's what matters." The Queen regarded him for a long moment, as if measuring every word, every gesture. Then she leaned forward slightly. "In my culture, the child you saved is part of a sacred lineage. Saving her places you in a position you cannot refuse. You will be honored." Kale blinked. "Honored, what do you mean?" The Queen's eyes gleamed with a mix of authority and amusement. "Prepare for the union. Your human nature does not diminish the importance of your actions. You are now connected." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Kale swallowed. Humans were not meant to be entangled in alien royal traditions, yet here he was, thrust into a world of rituals, expectations, and unimaginable responsibility. Leora stepped closer. "It is true," she said softly. "In our culture, saving a life forms a bond stronger than blood." "You are now bound to me." Kale's heart raced. He had acted without thinking, and now consequences had arrived, larger than he could have imagined. Over the next several hours, Kale was guided through the palace by Torin. The architecture was breathtaking, with towers of light and floating platforms that moved as if alive. He struggled to keep up, both physically and mentally. Aliens moved differently, their reflexes faster, their coordination perfect. Yet Kale noticed something. The palace, though intricate and advanced, had weaknesses. Certain mechanisms seemed rigid, predictable. In that moment, he understood why humans often thrived in situations where others relied solely on tradition or precision. They entered a room filled with strange devices and glowing symbols. Torin handed Kale a small tool. "You will need this. Do not break anything, but your understanding of machinery may be useful." Kale nodded, adjusting the tool in his hand. It was simple, yet elegant, designed for precision. He began examining the mechanisms. Within minutes, he identified a fault that had caused minor malfunctions in the palace's protective systems. This is not how we usually do things," Torin said, watching Kale's hands move with human efficiency. "But it works, efficient, creative, unexpected." Kale shrugged. "Sometimes simple solutions are the best. You don't always need complexity." The alien's skin shimmered, a sign of approval, though faint. Kale realized that even the most advanced societies valued ingenuity. It just had to come from unexpected sources. Meanwhile, Leora stayed near the observation window, her eyes reflecting both pride and nervousness. "Humans are unpredictable," she whispered. "I never imagined one could think so clearly in danger. Even our best strategists would hesitate." Kale smiled faintly. "We just act. We adapt, that's what humans do." She nodded, a quiet admiration in her gaze. The bond between them, forged in fire, seemed to grow stronger with every shared glance. Word of Kale's actions spread through the palace quickly. Guards, servants, and advisors whispered in corridors, their voices a mix of skepticism and awe. Humans were fragile, yes, but Kale had shown courage and resourcefulness beyond measure. It became clear, this human could not be ignored. The Queen summoned Kale again, this time with Leora beside him. "There will be trials," she said. "Tradition demands it. You must demonstrate your worth to my court and to the child you saved. Are you willing?" Kale's chest tightened, but he nodded firmly. "I am. Whatever is required, I will do." The Queen's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Then begin. Show us why humanity is remarkable." The first trial was both simple and complex. Kale was asked to navigate a series of ancient palace corridors, filled with intricate locks, shifting walls, and traps designed to test intellect, reflexes, and courage. Aliens had done this with precise calculations, but Kale relied on instinct, observation, and his ability to improvise. He noticed subtle patterns, faint shifts in the light, and the placement of certain symbols. Using his toolkit, he manipulated levers, rewired circuits, and moved panels just enough to create a safe path. At one point, a sudden trap released a torrent of scalding gas. Most beings would have panicked, but Kale used a simple folding shield from his pack, redirecting the flow and protecting himself and Leora. Every action seemed reckless to the aliens observing, yet it worked. Precision, quick thinking, and adaptability, all human traits, shone in moments of danger. By the end of the trial, Kale had navigated the labyrinth successfully. The court erupted in murmurs. A human, fragile and underestimated, had succeeded where trained alien strategists had failed. The queen observed quietly, her expression unreadable, yet a glimmer of approval shone in her eyes. Leora looked at Kale with awe, her earlier fear replaced by admiration. "You truly are unlike anyone I have ever met," she whispered. Kale shook his head. "I just do what I must." The next trial was less physical and more mental. Kale was presented with alien codes, mathematical sequences, and strategic simulations designed to challenge even the brightest minds. Again, he relied on logic, creativity, and intuition rather than brute knowledge. Within hours, he solved problems that had stumped the palace scholars for weeks. Whispers turned to exclamations. Humans, it seemed, possessed a type of ingenuity that could not be measured by alien standards. That night, as the trials ended, Kale and Leora walked through the palace gardens. The air shimmered with bioluminescent plants, casting a soft glow over their path. Leora spoke quietly. "Your people, they are underestimated across the galaxy. But you prove it is not weakness, it is strength." Kale looked at her. "Humans survive, we adapt, we fight when necessary, and sometimes we surprise everyone." She smiled, a mix of relief and wonder. Kale began to understand the implications of his presence in the palace. He was no longer just a visitor. His actions had shifted perceptions, not just of himself, but of all humanity. The aliens would never see humans the same way again. Every whispered conversation, every cautious glance, was now infused with a new awareness. Humans were capable of bravery, innovation, and strategic thinking that rivaled even the most advanced species. As the fire outside continued to smolder, Kale realized that this was only the beginning. The trials, the court, the expectations, they were all part of a larger test, not just of skill, but of character. The queen's attention, Leora's trust, and the whispers of the court were markers of something greater, humanity's role in a galaxy that had long dismissed it as weak. For the first time, Kale felt a deep connection to the future. He was not just surviving. He was shaping perception, proving that courage, ingenuity, and the instinct to protect were traits that could change the course of history. And as he looked at Leora, standing tall and glowing beside him, he knew that whatever challenges awaited, he and humanity were ready. The palace was quiet now, the immediate chaos subdued. Yet Kale could feel the eyes of the entire court upon him, not with disdain but with a cautious respect. It was a new beginning, one born from fire, courage, and the undeniable truth that humans could rise to any challenge, no matter how impossible it seemed. Kale awoke to the soft glow of the palace lights filtering through the tall windows. The previous day's trials and chaos had left him exhausted, yet his mind buzzed with anticipation. Today would be different. Today, he would face challenges that went beyond strength and intellect. They would test his courage, adaptability, and the human instinct to act under impossible circumstances. Leora was already waiting for him outside the chamber, her small figure illuminated by the gentle bioluminescent plants lining the palace corridors. She smiled softly, her eyes reflecting a mix of excitement and worry. "The Queen has requested your presence in the council chamber. It is important," she said. Kale nodded, adjusting the strap of his utility pack. He had grown accustomed to following protocols that felt strange to him, yet he trusted that his human instincts would guide him through what was coming. As they entered the council chamber, Kale could feel the tension in the air. The room was filled with the most powerful figures in the alien society, their eyes glowing faintly, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Whispers rippled through the chamber as Kale stepped forward. Even those who had doubted him during the trials now watched intently. Humans were fragile, yes, but Kale had already shown that his species could defy expectation. The queen sat at the head of the chamber, her presence commanding silence. "Kale," she said, her voice calm yet firm, "your trials have demonstrated skill, courage, and ingenuity. Yet there remains a greater test, one that will reveal not only your abilities but the true measure of your character." "Are you prepared?" Kale straightened, meeting her gaze steadily. "I am," he said simply. The queen's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Then listen carefully. You will accompany Leora to the outer gardens. There you will face the challenges that no one else has ever survived. You must protect her at all costs, for the trials will test every strength you possess." Kale exchanged a glance with Leora. Her small hand brushed against his arm, a reminder of the bond they had formed in the fire. "We will face it together," she whispered. Kale nodded, feeling a surge of determination. This was no longer about winning favor or proving worth. This was about survival, courage, and the human ability to act when others hesitated. The outer gardens were unlike anything Kale had ever seen. Vast stretches of alien flora stretched as far as the eye could see, glowing softly under the twin moons. Floating platforms moved gently above streams of luminous water, and delicate creatures flitted through the air, their wings leaving trails of light. It was beautiful, but Kale knew beauty often hid danger. As they walked, the first trial began without warning. From the shadows of the towering plants, massive alien predators emerged. Their bodies shimmered with reflective scales, and their eyes glowed with a predatory intelligence. Leora froze, but Kale stepped forward instinctively. Humans were small, yes, but they were clever, adaptable, and fearless when necessary. Kale scanned the environment quickly, spotting weak points in the terrain. He grabbed a fallen branch and fashioned a makeshift staff, using it to distract the creatures while guiding Leora across a narrow platform. One predator lunged, but Kale sidestepped, using its momentum to push it into a shallow pool of glowing water. The creature hissed, retreating with a splash. Leora's eyes widened. You knew exactly what to do," she whispered. Kale smiled faintly. "Sometimes you just have to use what's around you." The predators were relentless. Each movement required careful calculation, but Kale relied on instinct, observation, and quick improvisation. He used the environment to his advantage, swinging from vines, leveraging platforms, and even redirecting streams of water to slow the creatures. His human resilience shone through every decision, every action. The aliens observing from the palace would later remark on how a fragile species could demonstrate such mastery in a deadly situation. After what felt like hours, the predators finally retreated into the shadows. Leora clung to Kale, her trust in him evident. "You're incredible," she said softly. Kale shook his head. "I just act, I protect, that's what humans do." The bond between them, forged in fire and strengthened by trials, had become unbreakable. The next challenge was less physical and more mental. A labyrinth of floating platforms appeared, each adorned with complex symbols and shifting paths. Kale recognized the patterns immediately. His mind worked differently than the aliens. Where they relied on memory and rigid logic, he used intuition, observation, and a willingness to try unconventional approaches. He guided Leora step by step, decoding the symbols, anticipating shifts, and avoiding traps that had been designed to confuse even the most advanced minds. Halfway through, a section of the labyrinth began to collapse. Platforms tilted, symbols glowed dangerously, and the path ahead vanished. Kale didn't panic. He scanned the environment quickly and noticed a faint mechanical hum beneath the platforms. Using a combination of tools and improvisation, he stabilized a path just long enough for them to cross safely. Leora gasped, her admiration for him growing. "No one else could have done that," she whispered. Kale simply shrugged. "You just do what you have to." As they reached the center of the labyrinth, a final trial awaited. A massive energy barrier blocked their path, pulsating with power and designed to repel intruders. Kale studied it carefully. The barrier responded to motion, energy, and intent. Most beings would have tried brute force, but Kale thought differently. He observed the flow of energy, the patterns of the pulses, and used his human ingenuity to manipulate small reflective surfaces he had carried in his pack. Redirecting the light and energy, he created a safe passage through the barrier. When they emerged, the court from the palace was waiting. Every member of the council, every guard, every scholar had witnessed their journey. Murmurs of astonishment spread through the assembly. A human had faced trials that no alien had survived and had succeeded. Kale stood tall, though exhausted, and Leora by his side radiated admiration. The queen stepped forward, her eyes focused on him. Kale, you have exceeded all expectations. Your courage, intelligence, and adaptability are unmatched. You have protected the child of my house and faced challenges that no one else could. You are remarkable. Kale bowed slightly. I only did what was necessary, Your Majesty. The queen's gaze shifted to Leora. And you, child, have shown trust, bravery, and understanding. Together, you demonstrate the strength that comes from bonds forged in action, not words. Leora smiled, her small hand brushing against Kale's arm. We make each other stronger, she said simply. The council erupted in applause, though many remained cautious, still adjusting to the idea that a human could possess such capabilities. Kale felt a quiet pride. He had not just survived. He had proven that humans, though underestimated, could face challenges that no one thought possible. That night, Kale and Leora walked through the palace gardens once more. The soft glow of the bioluminescent plants reflected in their eyes. You've changed everything, Leora whispered. The court, the people, they will never see humans the same way again. Kale nodded, a quiet smile on his lips. I hope they see what humans really are. We survive, we adapt, and when necessary, we rise. They stopped by a stream of glowing water. Leora gazed at him, her expression serious. The queen will not stop here. There will be more trials, more challenges, but now you have shown what humans can do. That will change the path ahead. Kale looked at the reflection of the stars in the water. I am ready. Whatever comes next, humans will not back down. The palace was quiet, yet the echoes of their trials resonated through its halls. Guards whispered, scholars debated, and advisors planned, all taking note of the human who had faced death, danger, and impossible challenges with courage and ingenuity. Kale had not just survived. He had redefined what it meant to be human in a galaxy that had long dismissed his species. As they returned to their chambers, Kale realized that the fire, the trials, and the labyrinth had done more than test his abilities. They had revealed the core of humanity: resilience, creativity, courage, and the instinct to act in the face of danger. Leora's trust and admiration were the first tangible proof of that bond, but he knew the impact would extend far beyond their small circle. The queen's voice echoed in his mind, prepare for the union. The weight of that decree had not diminished, but Kale felt different now. He had faced impossible odds, succeeded where no one expected, and proven that humans were more than fragile observers. They were participants, innovators, and survivors. And as he lay down that night, exhaustion finally overtaking him, Kale felt a quiet certainty. The trials were far from over, but humanity had already begun to leave its mark. One act of courage, one decision to act when others hesitated, had set a chain of events into motion that no alien could ignore. In the quiet of the palace, Kale drifted to sleep with Leora nearby, knowing that together they had faced the impossible and had emerged stronger. The galaxy, he realized, was only beginning to see what humans were truly capable of. The morning sun cast its light over the palace, and Kale could feel the weight of the day ahead. Leora stood by the balcony, watching the city below, her small hands gripping the railing. The council has gathered, she said softly. They expect more from you today. Kale nodded. He had grown used to the pressure, to the eyes of an entire alien civilization scrutinizing every move. But nothing could prepare him for what was coming. The queen's summons came quickly. Kale and Leora walked through the corridors, their steps echoing softly. Guards flanked them, but Kale noticed their hesitation, the cautious respect in their movements. Today, he realized, would not just be about skill or intelligence. It would be about courage, strategy, and the kind of instinct that only humans seem to possess. When they entered the grand courtyard, the council members and palace advisors were already waiting. The courtyard was vast, its center dominated by a platform that shimmered with an energy Kale could feel vibrating through the air. Around it, strange devices and mechanisms formed a pattern he could not yet fully understand. The queen stepped forward, her eyes locked on him. Kale, she said, you have proven yourself capable. Today you will face the ultimate trial. You must protect Leora while navigating a scenario that challenges every skill, every instinct, and every decision you have ever made. Kale swallowed, feeling the familiar tightness in his chest. He looked at Leora. Her expression was calm, but there was determination in her eyes. We are ready, she said. Kale nodded. Then we begin. the queen declared, and with a gesture the courtyard transformed. Suddenly, walls of energy rose around them, forming a labyrinth-like arena. Aliens in observation platforms above began activating devices that sent obstacles, traps, and hazards into the courtyard. Mechanical beasts with glowing eyes and sharp appendages emerged, while energy pulses swept through the pathways. It was chaos, a test designed to push even the strongest alien warriors to their limits. Kale instinctively moved to shield Leora. "Stay close," he said, grabbing her hand. "We'll get through this together." She nodded, her grip firm. The first wave of mechanical beasts lunged at them. Kale reacted instantly, dodging and using debris from the arena as weapons. He knocked one beast into a collapsing energy field, short-circuiting its circuits. Another charged at them, but Kale lured it toward a trap, where it became entangled in a net of glowing wires. Each move was calculated, instinctive, and undeniably human. Leora followed his lead, trusting him completely. Her presence was not a burden. It was a reminder of why he fought. Humans had a way of rising to challenges when others hesitated, and Kale's ability to adapt, improvise, and think quickly set him apart from every other species in the galaxy. The arena shifted suddenly. Platforms tilted, and energy pulses surged from the ground, threatening to knock them off balance. Kale scanned the environment quickly, his eyes catching a faint pattern in the energy flow. "Step here," he directed, guiding Leora across a safe path. He jumped, ducked, and rolled, moving with precision while calculating every risk. The council above murmured in astonishment. A human, small and fragile in appearance, was maneuvering through dangers that had defeated trained alien warriors. As they reached the center of the arena, the next challenge appeared. A massive energy barrier formed around Leora, trapping her inside a pulsating dome. She called out, panic in her voice, but Kale's mind raced. He examined the barrier, noting the fluctuations and the faint patterns of energy. Using a small reflective device from his pack, he angled it to redirect the energy pulses. Step by step, he manipulated the light and power until a narrow opening appeared. Without hesitation, he pushed Leora through the gap, guiding her to safety. The crowd of observers erupted in whispers. Humans were supposed to be weak, incapable of understanding alien technology at this level. Yet Kale had not only survived, but had mastered the situation through observation, creativity, and courage. Every move he made reinforced the growing realization among the aliens. Humans were not to be underestimated. The final challenge was immediate and unexpected. From above, massive constructs of glowing metal descended, intent on capturing Leora. Kale grabbed her, using his human strength and quick reflexes to leap onto a floating platform. Sparks flew as the constructs, claws struck the surface, shaking it violently. Kale balanced, ducked, and rolled, moving with precision and intuition. He noticed a weak point in the constructs, jointed arms, and began using his makeshift tools to disable them. Hours seemed to pass in minutes. Kale never stopped, his focus absolute. Each decision was life or death, yet he remained calm, his mind working in a rhythm only humans seemed capable of under such pressure. Leora followed his lead, her trust unshakable. Together, they navigated traps, disabled constructs, and avoided deadly energy pulses that would have defeated even the most advanced aliens. Finally, the arena fell silent. The energy walls dissipated, the mechanical beasts collapsed, and the constructs powered down. Kale stood, breathing heavily but uninjured, with Leora by his side. The council erupted into applause, their voices filled with astonishment and newfound respect. The queen stepped forward, her eyes shining with approval. "Kale," she said, her voice echoing through the courtyard, "you have done what no other being in our history has achieved. You have protected the child of my house, overcome every challenge, and proven that courage, ingenuity, and human instinct can surpass all expectations." "You are extraordinary," Kale bowed. "I only did what I had to. No one else deserved harm." The queen's gaze softened, but there was still a weight behind it. "Extraordinary indeed, and now, Kale, the path is clear. You have proven your worth, and the union is appropriate. You have not only saved her, but shown what your species is capable of." Leora smiled, relief and admiration shining in her eyes. "You are human, yet stronger than many I have known," she whispered. Kale realized that the trials had changed everything. He was no longer just a visitor. He was a participant, a symbol of human potential. The aliens, who had once looked down on his species, now watched him with awe. Humans had been underestimated, dismissed as fragile observers, but Kale had shown that courage, intelligence, and the instinct to act could rewrite their perceptions entirely. The aftermath of the trial was immediate. Palace guards, scholars, and council members approached Kale with cautious respect. Some asked for his advice on systems he had manipulated, others simply stared, struggling to reconcile what they had witnessed. Leora walked beside him, her hand brushing against his, a quiet reminder that their bond had grown even stronger. That evening, the Queen summoned Kale and Leora to a private chamber. "You have passed every trial, Kale," she said, "and yet this is only the beginning. The Union will proceed, and with it, your role among us will grow. But remember this, your actions have not only affected the child you saved, they have changed the perception of your species throughout our society." Kale nodded. "I understand. And I will continue to act with courage and care, no matter what comes next." The Queen's lips curved into a small smile. "I have no doubt, humans are remarkable indeed. You have shown the potential that many have ignored, and now you and the child will move forward together as equals in spirit and strength." Leora's eyes sparkled with pride. "We will face everything together," she said softly. As the night fell over the palace, Kale reflected on what had occurred. The fire that had brought him and Leora together, the trials that had tested every skill he possessed, and the challenges he had faced in the outer gardens and the arena, all had proven one undeniable truth. Humans, underestimated and often dismissed, had a resilience, ingenuity, and courage that could rival the greatest civilizations in the galaxy. Kale realized that this was more than just survival. It was a turning point. His actions had changed perceptions, shifted power, and forged a bond that would alter the course of history. The galaxy, which had long underestimated humanity, now had undeniable proof of what his species was capable of. As he lay in his quarters that night, exhaustion finally overtaking him, Kale understood that the future would not be easy. There would be more challenges, more tests of courage, and perhaps more threats. Yet he felt a quiet confidence. Humans did not give up. Humans adapted. And humans, when faced with the impossible, rose to the occasion. The palace was alive with activity. Every corridor, every chamber, every balcony had been decorated in preparation for the ceremony. Lights shimmered in colors Kale had never seen before, floating ribbons of energy twisting in the air. The aliens of the court moved with precision, arranging everything perfectly, yet Kale could feel the underlying tension. Today was not just a celebration. It was the culmination of every trial, every act of courage, and every choice that had defined the past weeks. Leora stood beside him, her glowing eyes wide with excitement. Her hand brushed against his, and Kale squeezed it gently. "Are you ready?" she asked. Kale took a deep breath, feeling a mix of pride and nervous anticipation. "I'm ready," he said. Humans were not supposed to be part of alien royalty. Yet here he was, having survived trials, earned respect, and proven that courage and ingenuity could surpass even the most advanced societies. The courtyard was filled with beings from across the city and beyond, many floating gracefully above the ground, others moving elegantly on intricate walkways. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Humans were fragile, yes, but Kale's actions had rewritten the narrative. For many, it was difficult to reconcile the small, ordinary-looking human with the hero who had faced fire, mechanical beasts, and impossible challenges with unshakable determination. The Queen appeared at the top of the grand staircase, her presence commanding immediate silence. Her eyes, sharp and radiant, scanned the courtyard, finally resting on Kale and Leora. "Today," she began, "we honor courage, loyalty, and the bonds that cannot be broken. The human before you has demonstrated all these qualities. He has protected my child, proven his worth, and reminded us that strength is not measured by size or species, but by action, heart, and mind." Kale felt a quiet pride, but he kept his gaze on Leora. She was the reason he had acted with courage. She was the reason every step he had taken, every decision he had made in the past weeks had mattered. The Queen descended the staircase gracefully, her eyes never leaving him. "Kale," she said, "the Union is now to be recognized. The court has seen your bravery. Humanity is no longer a distant observer. You are part of this family, this society, and the legacy we will write together." A hush fell over the crowd as ceremonial beings approached. Leora and Kale were guided to the center of the courtyard, a platform glowing softly beneath their feet. Energy patterns danced around them, responding to the presence of those who stood on it. Leora's hand rested in Kale's, their bond visible not just to themselves, but to everyone watching. The Queen continued, "Let this union not be seen as obligation or tradition alone. Let it be a testament to what courage and loyalty can achieve. Let it remind all that underestimated beings may rise when needed, and when they do, the consequences can shape entire worlds." Kale felt the eyes of the council upon him. He had faced fire, labyrinths, mechanical beasts, and impossible challenges, yet this was different. Today, he was not just proving his worth in survival or skill. Today, he was proving that humans could inspire, lead, and leave a mark in a society far older and more advanced than theirs. As the ceremony began, Leora's voice echoed softly beside him. "Together," she said. Kale nodded. "Together," he replied. The platform beneath them responded, releasing a wave of light that flowed into the courtyard, a signal recognized across the city as the affirmation of the Union. The crowd erupted in applause, cheers, and the soft hum of admiration. Aliens who had once doubted humans now looked at him with respect, curiosity, and awe. Every member of the council, every guard, every observer had witnessed the culmination of human courage, ingenuity, and instinct. Kale had faced every challenge without fear, and the galaxy could no longer ignore the truth. The Queen stepped closer, her eyes on Kale. "Your actions have changed more than this ceremony," she said. "They have changed the way our people perceive humanity. They will no longer dismiss your species as weak or fragile. You have proven that even the smallest, most underestimated beings can rise to greatness." Kale felt a swell of pride, but he stayed focused on Leora. She was not royalty because of birth alone. She had survived, trusted, and fought alongside him. Their bond was forged in fire, tested in trials, and proven before an entire civilization. He realized then that humans, underestimated for so long, had a way of defying expectations simply by acting when others hesitated. The ceremony continued. Ancient customs were observed, but Kale and Leora adapted naturally, following the rituals with respect yet making them their own. Energy threads linked them, glowing softly as the court watched. Kale felt the warmth of Leora's hand in his, the quiet certainty that they had faced impossible challenges together and emerged stronger. Suddenly, a minor disturbance erupted at the edge of the courtyard. A faction that had opposed Kale's recognition attempted to disrupt the ceremony. Security forces moved to intervene, but Kale didn't wait. He acted instantly, guiding Leora behind him and using his human ingenuity to neutralize the threat without causing harm. Mechanical devices that the aliens had deployed malfunctioned under his quick improvisation. He redirected energy fields and created barriers using parts of the courtyard itself. Within moments, the situation was contained. The court watched in stunned silence. Humans were not supposed to be capable of such rapid adaptation, yet here was proof. Kale had not only survived the challenge, but had ensured that the ceremony continued unharmed. The Queen's eyes gleamed with approval. "Again, humanity shows what it is capable of," she said softly, almost to herself. As the ceremony concluded, Kale and Leora stood at the center of the platform, the glow of the energy threads surrounding them. The crowd erupted in celebration. Aliens who had doubted humans now approached Kale with respect, seeking insight into his actions, asking questions about his thought process, and acknowledging the courage and intelligence he had displayed. Kale smiled, realizing that humanity had achieved something far greater than survival or recognition. That evening, as the city lights reflected off the floating towers and streets, Kale and Leora walked through the palace gardens. The soft glow of bioluminescent plants illuminated their path. "You have changed everything," Leora said quietly. "The court, the people, they will never see humans the same way again." Kale nodded, feeling the truth of her words. "We've shown them what humans can do. And it's only the beginning." The Queen appeared, joining them in the garden. "Kale, Leora, you have proven that courage, loyalty, and ingenuity can surpass all expectation. Humanity will be remembered for what it has shown here. Your actions will inspire stories, traditions, and respect for generations to come." Kale bowed respectfully. "I am honored, Your Majesty. We only did what was necessary." The Queen smiled. "And that is precisely why it matters. Humanity has a place in this galaxy, and today you have ensured that place is earned." As the night deepened, Kale and Leora returned to their chambers. Exhaustion weighed on them, but it was a satisfied, purposeful exhaustion. They had faced fire, trials, and impossible challenges. They had proven their courage, loyalty, and ingenuity. The galaxy now recognized that humans were not fragile observers but capable participants, able to adapt, survive, and inspire. Kale sat by the window, looking at the stars. He thought of the fire that had brought him and Leora together, the labyrinths, the beasts, and the mechanical constructs they had overcome. Each challenge had reinforced one undeniable truth. Humans, underestimated for so long, had the courage and resourcefulness to change the course of events in a civilization far beyond their own. Leora joined him, her small hand brushing his. "Together," she said softly. Kale nodded. "Together," he repeated. Humans thrived not because they were the strongest, but because they acted when others hesitated, adapted when others failed, and rose when the odds seemed impossible. Their bond, forged in fire and strengthened by trials, was proof that courage and loyalty could rewrite expectations. The palace was quiet, but the impact of their actions resonated throughout the city and beyond. Guards, scholars, and council members whispered of the human who had faced death, danger, and impossible trials, and had emerged not just unscathed, but victorious. Kale had not only earned respect for himself, but for his species. Humanity, long underestimated, now held a place in the consciousness of the galaxy. As Kale and Leora settled into their chambers, the weight of what they had achieved sank in. The fire, the trials, the ceremony, they had proven that courage, intelligence, and human instinct were forces that could not be dismissed. The galaxy had seen the truth. Humans were more than fragile. They were capable of greatness, even in the most impossible circumstances. Kale looked at Leora and smiled. "This is only the beginning," he said. "We've shown them what humans can do. Now it's time to see just how far we can go." Leora nodded, her eyes shining with trust and pride. Together they had faced the impossible, and together they had emerged stronger. The night passed with quiet reflection, the palace serene under the glow of twin moons. The galaxy had witnessed a human's courage, and humanity had left its mark. Kale knew that the future would bring more challenges, but he also knew one undeniable truth. Humans, underestimated for so long, could rise to meet anything. And when they did, the consequences would shape worlds.